But like it definitely like my step is like
hello, my name is Laura Dale.
And my name is Felix Fern.
And thank you all for coming out for today's trans rights protest. We deeply appreciate everyone who's taken the time to be here today, particularly our fellow organisers and everyone volunteering their time to help with the running of the event.
We have around 3 hours of speeches from 13 speakers today. But first we want to run through some housekeeping from our formal list of protest demands. But before we do that, can we hear you shout? I need you to repeat after me. Trans women are women.
Trans women are women.
Trans men are men.
Trans men are men.
Non-binary people are non-binary.
Non-binary people are non-binary.
Okay, housekeeping rules. COVID-19 is still an issue regardless of a changing government guidance. Unless you are exempt, please wear a mask at all times and try your best to socially distance yourself from people not in your household or support bubble. Our speakers will be wearing masks when not at the microphone. We also highly recommend taking a COVID test after today to ensure that you and those around you are kept safe. Lateral flow tests can be ordered online for free and sent to your door.
There are stewards and first aiders spaced out. You can identify them by the high-vis jackets or armbands that they are wearing. They also have, they have name stickers. I forgot to give them. We have a first aid point situated to the side of the stage, which I think we're doing over here. So if you need first aid, probably this area. Where we have 2 first aiders with water and limited amounts of disposable earplugs if you have sensory processing issues. And we may have a couple chairs. Do we have chairs? We don't have chairs. If you require any assistance, basically go to the first aid point. In case of a serious medical emergency, please call 999.
We have 2 British Sign Language interpreters here today who will be interpreting all our wonderful speeches. We would appreciate if you could ensure there is space at the front of the crowd for anyone who would benefit from being able to see our interpreters.
Be aware of those around you. If you are made aware that someone would benefit from being closer to the stage, please assist them in moving forward safely. People around you may be disabled or neurodiverse or may experience sensory overload, so be prepared to give those people space or help them to locate stewards and first aiders.
To those under the age of 18 present today, please don't hesitate to come to our first aid point if you require any additional support. Please also be aware that speeches today may contain mentions of transphobic violence, sexual assault or suicide.
Now, with that out of the way, let's get on to our formal list of protest demands. Boris Johnson, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and leader of the Conservative Party. We are here today outside 10 Downing Street to address the government's failure to protect and empower marginalised people, notably the transgender and non-binary community. These are our demands.
We demand that the transgender and non-binary healthcare system is fully overhauled and reformed via properly funding transgender and non-binary healthcare to remove the traumatic and outright dangerous minimum 3 to 5 year waiting list for appointments.
Using UK-wide GP-led care, training and supporting GPs to provide bridging prescriptions and referrals to gender-specific counselling.
Ensuring that all healthcare professionals follow a baseline of care as outlined by the World Professional Association for Transgender Health.
The transgender, non-binary and gender-diverse people under the age of 18 are guaranteed adequate medical care and support from specialised gender clinics.
It is vital that transgender, non-binary and gender-diverse minors are explicitly confirmed to have the right to GILET competency, to access gender therapy and medical treatment without the requirement for parental consent.
That the government ensures that the promised ban to conversion therapy protects transgender, non-binary, and those questioning their gender from abusive practices that put their livelihood at risk and deny their right to safely and freely be themselves.
That the Gender Recognition Act is reformed according to the pledge delivered by Theresa May and the Conservative government in 2018, granting transgender people the right to receive a gender recognition certificate without an outdated, medicalised and obfuscated process.
That non-binary people be granted the same legal recognition as binary transgender people by allowing them to self-identify under a reformed Gender Recognition Act as neither male nor female.
That the transgender and non-binary people are able to obtain new legal documents as and when required that accurately reflect their gender, not what is listed on their original birth certificate, so that death and marriage certificates are not dehumanising, but are instead accurate to the lived experience of the individual.
That Boris Johnson's government commits to ensuring that transgender, non-binary and gender-diverse people can continue to be able to access the single-sex spaces that most accurately reflect their gender and their needs, and that the government commits to promoting the creation of more gender-neutral spaces where appropriate.
That transgender, non-binary and gender-diverse people are not at risk of discrimination, refusal of services or mindless assault for using these necessary spaces.
That Boris Johnson's government makes a commitment to the UK's intersex population by exploring an amendment to the Equality Act 2010 to include intersex people as a protected group and prove themselves to be dedicated to protecting marginalised people by making it illegal to perform elective corrective surgeries on intersex minors.
That Boris Johnson's government commits to the support and empowerment of all marginalised groups, having historically failed to protect them and grant them the necessary rights to exist safely and equally.
This includes providing adequate training and education for all government officials, from politicians to civil servants, the police and healthcare professionals, on the treatment of marginalised people regarding their rights to be safeguarded and treated equally.
It is vital that the government commits to delivering a high-quality service that does not add fuel to the fire for media to build upon their anti-trans agenda.
This also means adequately assessing and analysing groups registered under the government's Charity Commission, ensuring that they do not register groups that promote inflammatory and offensive language that violates the Charities Act 2011, which means revoking the charity status of the LGB Alliance. That the Minister for Women and Equality's Elizabeth Truss be removed from her post, and that this ministerial role be filled by someone with a genuine commitment to the people that the role impacts, with a proven track record to back it. That the newly appointed Minister for Women and Equalities supports integral charities such as Stonewall, whose Diversity Champions programme does vital work in ensuring that the LGBTQ+ staff in over 850 workplaces are free from discrimination and prejudice. That the LGBT advisory panel is reinstated and is still consists of individuals who are educated on transgender, non-binary and gender-diverse issues and are committed to supporting us. Finally, we demand that the Equalities Office publicly acknowledges and addresses its failures in serving the UK population, and that it is held responsible for claiming that the UK is not systematically racist despite an increase in racially motivated hate crimes since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, leaving disabled and elderly people to die, allowing autistic people to be given do not resuscitate orders without consent, failing to commit to a full ban on conversion therapy, and the fact that we still do not have equality for disabled people who are risk a loss of financial support if they live with or marry a partner. This is only a small fraction of the many recent dangerous failings committed by the Conservative government, and they must be held to account. Thank you so much again for coming out today. Before we get started with today's speeches, we wanted to give a quick thank you specifically to our co-organisers, without whom today this would not have been possible. A huge thank you to Will Smith from Higher Frequencies for donating us staging today, Thomas Cuckle for donating the PA system we're using, and everyone who helped us to raise funds for today's BSL interpreters. Let's make sure that everyone in central London knows why we are here today. So repeat after me. Trans rights are human rights.
Trans rights are human rights.
I stand with Stonewall.
I stand with Stonewall.
Protect trans kids.
Protect trans kids.
Protect intersex kids.
Protect intersex kids.
Protect trans people of colour.
Protect trans people of colour.
Protect trans sex workers.
Protect trans sex workers.
Protect disabled trans people.
Protect disabled trans people.
Protect autistic trans people.
Protect autistic trans people.
And without further ado, let's introduce you to our first speaker of the day, Sian Amakwedi, whose pronouns are she, her.